I'm a new creation, is recreation, I'm born again.
So, it's lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having me here.
It's like, I can't believe we've actually made it.
I know. Oh.
It was so nice to see you at church, and like when I first seen you, I really did feel drawn to you, and I just like wanted to get to know you straight away. It was weird. Have you ever had anything like that?
I had that with you actually. As well, same.
Like I didn't know you, and obviously we've both not been going there very long, but it's like I just thought there's something about her that I just want to get to know, and you had like a light, and anyway, it's some things are just meant to be, aren't they? And I just knew as soon as I spoke to you and got like a good feel for you, and then when I heard your amazing testimony, I was like, this girl is incredible, and what God's done in your life, and you know, in such a short time as well.
Overnight.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, and that's what he does, doesn't he? So I thought it was only right, you know, I'm starting this podcast. I feel led by God to do this, and you know, the main thing for me is for people to hear incredible testimonies of like incredible people like you who have like gone through hell, as have I, and I think that's why we kind of related, is because we've had similar experiences. But for anyone anyway who's wondering what's going on, I'm going to let you, Jen, explain everything and let people know about what Jesus has done for you. But before that, I'd just like to ask one question. Okay. Is that obviously my podcast and my life coaching's called Powerful Peace, and so this is what I use my blueprint in, is to help new Christians who are struggling with their faith, and they're struggling with connecting things with the blueprint that I use of me finding peace and finally getting that journey that I deserved, which I know was not going to happen without peace. It was not happening.
Yeah.
Do you have peace now?
Yes.
And did you have peace before?
No.
Okay, so please, I just cannot wait to hear. Just go back to the start.
Okay.
Go back to the start.
Okay, so I think one of my first memories really was in church, actually.
Yeah.
It's a Pentecostal church, and it wasn't the type of church we go to now.
Yeah.
It was different, you know. It was owned and ran by my dad's side of the family.
Okay.
And so I think it all sort of started there, with my memories and stuff.
Yeah. So you were a Christian when you were a child. So your family were all kind of into Christianity.
Yeah, really into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite.
It was a big thing in your whole family's life.
Yeah. Always brought up with the stories of Jesus, and
It's completely brought up with it, yeah.
I've always believed, but I've never been a follower of Christ.
Yeah.
A true follower.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like we know of him, but we don't know him.
Yeah.
And it's like with me, I was brought up Catholic, and it was Jesus this, Jesus that, and he was just nothing more than a character.
Yeah.
Did you feel the same way?
Yeah.
And so go on, where did it kind of start panning out?
Don't know how to sort of start it.
So for anyone who is probably wondering about Jen, so you were, as of 2 months ago, identifying as a man.
Yeah, a straight
trans male.
Yes.
And that is just who you believed you were.
I didn't think God could change that. I thought, this is me, and I even convinced myself that God accepted me as a straight trans male.
And while you were as a male, did you believe that, like, were you still praying? Did you still have your Christianity? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So at what point did you transition?
Transition from
a girl to a guy?
Well, I had my first memories at about 4 years old.
Right.
Of thinking, I feel like a boy. I want to be a boy. I want to wear boys' clothes. I want to cut my hair short. I want to do this. I want to do that. All very, like, sort of steering towards like masculinity.
At 4.
At 4, yeah.
But what happened before 4? Because this is,
Yeah.
from my experience and from what I know about the enemy, who is the devil and his demons, that through trauma comes a whole set of problems, and that is one of the biggest footholds in someone's life. Open doors is trauma. So if you're brave enough to let me know and tell everyone what happened, that would be amazing.
So I was sexually abused by my father for, well, my youngest memory at about 3 years old.
Wow.
Till really the last time I saw him in childhood, which was 16.
Wow.
So it was quite a long time, really.
And this is a man of God,
Yeah.
supposedly.
Yeah, he was a youth pastor, actually, in the church that we grew up in, his family's church, my family's church.
Wow.
He was the youth pastor there.
Wow.
And I witnessed things, you know, in that youth room,
Yeah.
which was hard, you know, really hard, you know, especially not really what's happened to me. I dealt with that grief a few years ago. But really what I witnessed happen to other people, the children younger than me, and yeah.
And he felt brave enough to do this in front of you because obviously he was already abusing you.
Yeah.
So at 3 years old, is that your first memory of him doing something?
Is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, how did he get away with that? Did your mum have any idea? Did anyone? How did he do it? Not literally, but you know.
Doctors were aware. Yeah, the GP was aware. She wrote it down on my medical records. You know,
Oh,
1997,
my
which I think made me about 4 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Sexually abused, in brackets, by father.
Oh
1997.
my gosh.
Yeah.
And why? How was that not picked up?
It was picked up. She's obviously the doctor, the GP wrote it down in my medical records, but her excuse was she saw my mum later on in life. I was probably about 25 at the time, and she said, "How are the kids?" And my mum said, "Well, not so good. What you said about their dad was right, and what happened there." And she said, "I'm sorry I didn't chase it up. I was having a sort of bit of an emotional time myself, a bit of a breakdown, and I forgot to sort of pass the information on to social services."
Isn't it?
I know.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh well. God bless, because obviously she's going to have to live with that, isn't she? And, you know, this is the problem when people, it's everything spiritual, and there was just something that didn't want you getting any help at that point, clearly. It was something so wicked. And I truly believe that the enemy knows exactly what he's doing at all angles. And if he can extinguish a light that he knows is going to change lives, he will work overtime. So when this abuse was going on from 3, so this has opened now up the door for trauma, and now this is a foothold for the enemy. So now you're just a child who is this happening daily? What's going on?
My memories aren't that clear.
Yeah.
A lot of it is not that clear. I remember sort of leading up to the abuse, after the abuse, not really much of the abuse. Actually, my brain sort of blocked a lot of it out. I remember sort of what I witnessed happen to other people, which is probably the worst bit for me. Yeah.
That's the worst.
Yeah, definitely.
For you, not even about yourself, it's about others.
Oh, yeah.
And how did you kind of like cope with, because I know from my childhood, you know, it only happened, it was just a one-time thing sexually, but then it went on to emotional, mental, physical, all of that. But that one time only, that was the catalyst of my life was gone from that point, because I just don't think that anybody who's had something done to them, whether it's inappropriately touching, it doesn't matter how bad it is, when your innocence is robbed at that moment, you're gone.
You're no going back.
There's no going back. And I don't know about you, but I struggled with that people just assumed that there was something wrong with me. I was, you know, a troubled child. I was spoiled. I was this. Did you go through the same struggles of no one just understood?
Yeah, well, I had, at the time, undiagnosed ADHD as a child, so I used to just stare out the window, and the teachers would say, like, oh, it's just Jen again in her own world, you know, away with the fairies, and I didn't really learn anything in school. Really, no. I didn't process any of the information.
No, same.
That was
it
given
can't.
to me.
How can
I
it?
had so much on my mind.
Yeah.
There was no room to process anything more.
And if only teachers knew this, if only they knew, you know, I came away with nothing.
Yeah.
I went from school to school, bullied within an inch of my life. I was a bully at one point because I had so much anger.
Yeah.
Did you end up, like, were you bad with people? Like, how did that affect you? Because I know I had so much anger and so much hurt that I would then try and do the same to others.
Yeah. I think later on after school, I think in school I was more of a victim of the bullying. But after school, I sort of, something grew inside of me, like a sort of arrogance, maybe cockiness, thinking.
Right.
I'm not going to let anyone do that to me again. You know? And anyone comes near me, gives me a funny look or anything.
They're dead. They're dead. Yeah.
I'll go for them.
Isn't there a spirit of offence and self-righteousness? Have you noticed now, knowing now you've been saved, the spirits that fester and are attached to once that trauma door is opened, and now you're carrying them spirits that have gone inside you, how they are the same. It's the same in every different victim, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I had a chip on my shoulder like no one's business. Anyone who looked at me the wrong way, you'd get it. You know, I was just very angry, very bitter. All the traits that people just think are bad traits of emotion, jealous, envy, anger, strife, they're actual spirits. The spirits. The spirits that have grown and been put in, oppressed, suppressed from that open door of trauma. And it's like, then that becomes your personality, doesn't it? And then it just adds on, so people just think you're even more of a problem.
Yeah.
So how did you, like, within yourself, like, just explain, like, your day-to-day life of just living with this horrendous weight on your shoulder? Like,
yeah, I was quite a lonely child, really. I had a dog, and he was the only one that knew what was going on, really, truly. And he was lovely. So I'd spend a lot of time with my dog, going for walks, and sort of, I'd sit in his basket with him. I'd try, honestly. I used to celebrate his birthday, and that dog was amazing.
Love that.
But I was a very lonely child. Very lonely.
Yeah, I know that feeling. There was. How could you keep friends or have friends? It's like people were repelled against you, weren't they? I felt like, you know, the very few friends that especially young childhood, there was something so tarnished. You were tarnished with a disgusting, invisible tar, isn't it? Yeah. And people who had nothing wrong with them or hadn't been affected were walking in like the light, and it's like the two couldn't come together. Did you feel that?
I did. Yeah,
I felt like a stain. Did you?
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from with that.
But the anger though, did you have the anger?
Not as a child.
No,
not really. No, I think that came out later on. I'd say about 16. Yeah, the anger came out.
So yeah, walk me through. So you had your dog. You at least had something. Now, when I look back, and like when you look back, do you realise that even though what we went through, how awful it was, and so many years lost? For me, I'm born again only 5 years ago, so I've only got them 5 years. I'm on my new life. For you 2 months ago. Yeah. But it's like, how many years were just wasted and just gone? But basically, in those years, like, did you find yourself thinking, as bad as it was, do you look back and now think Jesus was actually there?
Yeah.
Even though people would never believe it because you're abused every day of your life you know, the worst kind of abuse, your father. There's no worse than that.
Yeah.
That is, there's no, what he had inside of him was the most evil spirit of all. The most evil. And for him to do that to his own daughter, there's just, it's true evil. And he's a vessel, as was my abuser. They're just vessels.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know this, but the devil loves to use lukewarm Christian men and defile them because they are the closest made of God's image. So he hates God, as we know, but to really rub it in God's face and destroy him, to get a lukewarm Christian man who goes to church, even preaches, but then is going home and doing that. Can you couldn't write it, could you?
No.
But like I said, so tell me the times looking back now you realise that Jesus was there all along, even as bad as it was. Have you got any examples of how you know now he was there?
Yeah, I think looking back now, I realise it. I think I wouldn't have realised it before, but the amount of, really in childhood as well, the amount of suicide attempts and self-harm and just destructive behaviour all the way along. There's like prevention and positions I'd been put in where I was at risk, I was unsafe.
Yeah.
And really, he was there all along.
He was, because otherwise you would have been gone.
Just things that you can't even explain, like things. It wasn't my time.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. So how many times did you attempt?
A lot.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Do you remember your first attempt?
Yeah, I think I was about 12 years old.
Wow, so young.
Yeah, so it started with, self-harming, like cutting myself.
Yeah.
And these things. And that just escalated and got really bad. By the age of 16, I was using, straight razor blades.
Wow.
Wow. Just going to town on myself,
Really?
Yeah.
And school, did they pick up on this?
No.
No. And you had no one that could see did anyone know you were doing it?
I think my mum had her suspicions around the age of about 14, 15. And then at 16, I just didn't care anymore. It was quite an open thing that's what I would do and that's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And that's my way of surviving, really. It was at the time my way of getting through it. And then I think about 15, 16, like overdoses started happening. Started taking overdoses, I jumped in front of a car. I've walked on the motorway. I've stood on top of Shude Hill car park, 8 stories high, climbed over the railing and stood on a pane of glass. That was 16. I've tried to jump in front of trains.
Wow.
Tried to climb over railings, which was the last one actually, I think it was the 27th of November.
Yeah, so tell me about that, because that's incredible. Yeah. So tell me about that story about you. You were going to do it. Yeah. And then?
There was no question in my mind that was what I was going to do. And it's funny really because, not funny, but the nights before the 27th of November last year, it wasn't icy. And the nights after the 27th, it wasn't icy. Just the 27th, that was icy. And I had it in my head that I was going to go to, it was Railway Road in Stretford, and there's a train station there where the freight trains go along.
Yeah.
And there was a fence, and the fence was very icy. And I kept trying to climb the fence, and I kept slipping. And I can climb anything, really. Yeah. I can climb fences, it's not a problem. Yeah. I could not get over this fence, this gate. I could not get over it, and it's because it was icy, really icy. And I kept slipping down and down and down. And I was there for about 10, 15 minutes, really trying to get over this.
Really trying.
Yeah, really trying. And I just could not get over that gate.
Thank you, Jesus.
I know.
Thank you, Jesus, that he made that. Look at him, what he does. Yeah. Look at what he does. You were never meant to go. You never were meant to go. You were meant to be on this path that you're on now. So obviously so you've done lots of attempts of suicide. None of them have, and I can imagine you probably did try hard. You weren't messing about.
No, and it got worse as well as I got older. Sort of it stopped for a good few years, and then sort of the last few months, I'd say, sort of October, November, December of last year, you know, there was lots of attempts. I was in a psychiatric hospital.
Wow. So you ended up actually in a psychiatric...
Yeah. Multiple times throughout my life.
Right.
Through psychosis, suicide attempts, you know, full-blown psychosis. I didn't know where I was, what day it was, what time it was. Really,
and would this come on through drugs and alcohol, or this just spontaneously?
I mean, it could have been, you know, it could have been because of the drugs and alcohol, but I think it was stress, you know, bad relationships and the stress of the past and all of it, and work pressure and, you know, just multiple things, lack of sleep. You
were just basically a mess.
Oh, yeah.
An absolute...
An alcoholic, an addict, a drug addict.
So when did you start taking drugs and alcohol?
I started drinking alcohol at 11.
Wow.
So, and it came heavy, you know. It wasn't
Really?
It wasn't just a couple of sips, and then me and my best friend used to mix like gin, vodka,
everything,
port, everything in a cocktail.
That's what
it was vile.
I can't swear, but it was called SHIT mix. We'd call it that, and we'd go in my mum's cupboard, bump, the whole lot, mix it up, done. It was potent. Yeah. So you did that, and you just
span. We used to drink it and spin at the age of 11. Yeah.
And it's just an escapism, isn't it?
Yeah.
And did you like the feel of how it just made you escape?
Yeah.
So when did you start drugs, and what drugs did you start?
It wasn't till a bit later I started drugs. I mean, I really fell into alcohol as soon as I got a taste for it.
Yeah.
It was my thing, was alcohol.
Yeah.
And then I think about 15, 16, I tried cannabis, and then cocaine a bit later on, and then other things, pills, you know, ecstasy, MDMA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just anything.
Even crack. Yeah.
Stop
Yeah,
it.
even crack. A couple of times. But,
thank God you didn't get hooked on
that. No, right, yeah.
No, because that in itself...
very addictive.
That is another miracle in itself. That could have been a whole different story. I didn't even know that. Wow. That could have just been a whole... Because look at people, and always on the streets, all these drug addicts, you speak to them and they've got the same story. Abuse, sexual abuse. It's the same. The same demon doing the same thing in a different body.
Yeah.
And so at this point, so you knew at 4 that this is now the devil giving you identity issues, that now he's told you that you aren't what God made you. So we've got the first big thing that's now hit you of now gender confusion. So at this point now, as you get through school, were you dressing tomboy? Did people just take you as you were, or were you now, what point did you truly identify as a guy?
It was after having my daughter.
Right, okay.
So at 19 or 18 I got pregnant. I had her at 19.
Okay.
And then when she was a baby, sort of maybe a year old, I used to lay in bed at night next to her dad, and I used to think, right, I think I'm a lesbian.
Right.
I really do. And then it sort of went from that to, well, maybe I'm not, maybe I am a guy.
Yeah.
And I really believed that.
Yeah.
And I told myself, no, you're not. You can't be. You're a mother. You have to think about Poppy. You have to think about your daughter. And I suppressed it for a few more years. I did, until I was about, I'd say 25. Okay. Yeah. So.
And how? So obviously, then you're going through all your battles in and out of hospitals. So when the guy that you had Poppy with. Mm-hmm. Were you in a relationship with him, or was that just like a thing? And how did having her change, did that not alter things?
Oh, it did, yeah. So the self-harm didn't stop.
Right.
The suicidal thoughts, they didn't stop, but the suicidal attempts stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, they stopped.
Yeah,
and she was a prevention, really. She saved my life more than she realises.
Yeah.
Really.
Same with my son. Yeah. They were heaven sent, weren't they?
Mm.
Because like you, I was ready to give up.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to live. You know what it's like. What's there to live for? It's hell. And then I never wanted kids. couldn't stand them. And then, God made it so that I was over 3 months pregnant or around that, so that when I found out, I couldn't get rid of him.
Yeah.
Isn't that God? That he knew that if it was any earlier, I would have probably had, an abortion. But no, so I know. And I thank God every day for that lifeline. And he knows when, and this is what people don't understand, is before you accept Jesus, because he's never stopping banging your door down, is he?
No.
He never stops. But when you have got that much demonic oppression over you, and the spirit of unbelief, every spirit going, you cannot see the light behind the darkness.
No.
But Jesus is never stopping to try and come in, is he?
No.
And, even sending us our beautiful children, and, that was a lifeline. But even through the darkness, if people could only understand, he is not given up on you, has he? And he's not going to ever. It's just, how are people going to make that? I don't know. It's that point, isn't it, where you say, enough is enough. I can't do this anymore, and I need... For me, I didn't get to that point. Jesus came to me when I wasn't looking for him, and he showed me who he was. And I was suicidal that night, and he showed me on my iPad, out of nowhere, near-death testimonies of heaven and hell. First heaven, and I was like, wow, this is beautiful and amazing. And then I was like, well, I want to know what hell is like. So I started going on testimonies of people who've been to hell, and I thought, well, I'm in hell now, so I'll only be going to another hell. Next thing, Christianity site comes up on the iPad saying, the devil has won when he makes you think that you are unworthy and God has abandoned you. Now, my thoughts in my head from the devil was, God will never forgive you. You're vile. You've done too much. You're dirty. God doesn't come near people like you, Katie.
That's the enemy.
No, I know, but isn't he clever?
Yeah.
So I thought, just like I've spoken to hundreds of people, oh no, I'm a little bit too naughty for God. God's parked me up. Or that's what he does. He tells you, no, you're unworthy. You're too unworthy. You're too dirty. You've done too much. And we believe it. And I believed it. And then I seen it in front of my eyes on the iPad, and it said the sinner's prayer. And that night I got down on my hands and knees and I cried out to Jesus. And when you do that, when you cry out to him, mountains move. Do you agree?
Yeah.
So just go back now so you had Poppy, you're now figuring out, are you a lesbian, are you not? Okay, so now walk me through you properly transitioning, and from that point on.
So I think for me it started when I got my hair cut, really.
Okay.
So for years I'd chop away at my hair myself.
Right.
I'd just cut it off.
Yeah.
But I went to the barber's this one time and I said, right, take it all off.
Right.
I said I want a number 1 on the sides and I want it spiky on top. And that's what I had done. And it was terrible, really. It was the worst first haircut, really. It was awful. I think I've still got a picture of it somewhere. It was terrible. But yeah. So eventually I started to buy new clothes and stuff like that. I'd buy a binder, which is like compression for your chest. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
So I've probably spent about £300 on binders in the past.
Wow, okay.
So expensive.
Serious.
Yeah, and they hurt a lot.
Do they?
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Painful. And you can break ribs from wearing them.
Jesus, no.
So I'd wear them and I think I presented quite masculine. People wouldn't tell that I wasn't.
They wouldn't know.
No,
and did you
until
like
I
that?
spoke, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
You loved it,
It was affirming,
Yeah.
It was actually the first time, up until obviously recently, that I felt comfortable.
Right.
It was. Yeah.
So lead me up to, so now so when you're a transgender and you go from a girl to a guy, so were you into women, girls, or how did it work?
Yeah. Well, before I'd actually came out as trans, I didn't really come out as lesbian because I didn't identify as a lesbian in myself. But people just presumed, well, I'm female and I like females, well, I must be a lesbian.
Right.
So I was seeing women from the age of about 21. And throughout. And then, I sort of figured out that I wasn't a lesbian. I didn't like certain things, and that I wanted to identify as a man.
Yeah.
And I do believe now that does come from the trauma. It does.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Because I noticed.
Textbook.
Yeah.
Textbook.
I thought it was something that I was born with. I really did. I thought it was something that was in my brain, and, well, I was born in the wrong body, and, all these things.
And with the world backing it up.
Absolutely.
With the world backing it up, that you can explore this, that you don't have to be who you were born as. We've got all the backup of the world, haven't we?
Yeah.
Well, anyone has now too. That's what the enemy has forced upon the world, that it is, don't worry if you're a girl or a boy, you can be anything, and embrace it, and this LGBT community, and all I see truly are abused children with mental health issues. And if they found Jesus and they know what the Bible says about them, they would be changed instantly, and they'd never look back. So, okay, so tell me now about your lead up now of being, what was your name?
Jensen.
So Jensen being just into it all, Jensen's mental health state, and then how you came to being born again and being touched by Jesus.
I mean, everything about me as a trans man was, I mean, I was more masculine than most men, really.
Because let's face it, sorry to say, but men now, they have been attacked.
Yeah.
That we know. And it says it all when trans women are more masculine than normal men.
Yeah.
But this is another, tactic from the enemy. But go on.
From everything, from opening doors for women, letting them in the car, tucking them in the seat, and
a gentleman,
and standing on the right side of the road, not letting the woman stand on the side of the cars, and even going into places or unknown territory. The man should always go first. Yeah. So I believe anyway. If it's unknown, woman should always come first. Go first unless it's like an unknown territory. Yeah. Where you're going into somewhere where it could be a risky situation.
Wow, so this was you were deeply rooted in a man's state of mind.
Yeah. And I'm working out as well. I had quite a big sort of chest and my shoulders.
Were you taking any hormone?
No, I mean, I was on the list. Actually, still am. I'm going to wait for them to call me so I can tell them myself. Listen, I don't need this anymore.
I got Jesus.
Yes, yeah. So I was on the list actually I've been on for 4 years now on this list.
Wow. To have the full...
To have top surgery, so a double mastectomy.
Wow.
To have testosterone pumped into me, and to have bottom surgery.
Wow.
Really. Wow.
And is this free on the NHS?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a waiting game.
No.
I'm glad I had that waiting game, really.
Can you imagine?
Because they did say 3 to 4 years waiting, and I was on it for 4 years. 4.5. So.
Wow.
For God to come in when he did.
He swooped in.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Jensen's now living his life as a man, and still unhappy though, still very troubled, still everything. So just lead me into, and I can't wait to hear how it all came together, and how finally Jesus got his way with you.
Yeah. So I was in the psychiatric hospital after the suicide attempts, the train station.
Yeah.
And
so November just gone.
Yeah, November just gone.
You fully tried to kill yourself, but it was too icy when it never had been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the days before and the days after it was not icy. So there was, and then when I was in hospital, when I was in the psychiatric hospital, there was other attempts. I'd shove a big chair in front of my door, get a belt, tie it around my neck, really tight, and just
you just really tried.
Really tried. And cutting myself, things like that. That was more of a preventative to suicide.
Right.
At that point was like, well, I'm going to either cut myself or kill myself.
Yeah.
Which one are you going to do? You're going to cut yourself.
Yeah. And by the way, your daughter at this point, she's living with the dad.
Yeah.
So was she aware of any of this?
She didn't even know I was in hospital.
No.
I didn't want her to know. I wasn't seeing her at that point, which was difficult.
Yeah.
But I wanted to protect her from that, you know. I didn't want her to know what was going on, because she's at an age now where she will understand certain things, and she does sort of understand sort of through the years my mental health has been bad. But yeah, and
so you were in the hospital, so sorry.
I'd actually previously been to the church, CRC Manchester,
right, R1,
so I'd previously been in December,
right,
I think.
And what got you through the doors?
A leaflet. Out from Outreach in Urmston. It was a Saturday, and one of the members handed me a leaflet.
Right, okay, so just walking the street, so you're in the right place at the right time, God ordained again.
And well, that Sunday I went with my mum and my sister and my daughter and my niece.
Wow.
We all went.
Lovely.
Yeah. And then I think this was the beginning of December.
Yeah.
And then I went into hospital, and a few Sundays had passed, I hadn't been back, till I got to, I think, the first Sunday of the year, the 5th of January. And me and a friend, because I couldn't go by myself. Like, the thought of that, walking into them doors by myself, was like,
no,
I couldn't do it. So I met a Christian friend in hospital, and she said, well, she'll come with me. So we both went together, and the service was amazing. Yeah. And then at the end, you know, Pastor asked, raise your hand if anyone would like to be prayed for today, and I did, and I went forward, and he prayed as a group for everyone.
Yeah.
And then we went off, got our Bibles, and then he called for me to come back, for him to pray for me one-on-one, and he did. And he asked my name, and he respected my name. At the time, I was Jensen, so I said, you know, I'm Jensen, and he, you know, just placed his hand on my head and said, I want to take any confusion away from Jensen. You know, he respected my name, which meant a lot. You know, and still now, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And it was quite a short prayer, but wow, it was powerful.
I've got goosebumps. I've got goosebumps.
My head was vibrating. Like, my head was... Phew.
The Holy Spirit was fine. Well, them spirits left, didn't they?
Yeah. Actually, I didn't realise at the time. I just came away feeling really happy. And we walked back to the hospital, which was only around the corner. And then I felt great that day, and I went to sleep that night, and I slept well. And then I woke up in the morning. Around 10 o'clock, I got a phone call, and it was one of the church leaders, and she just asked me what had brought me into hospital. And without going around the houses, I just kind of said, well, really what the root of it is, well, my dad abused me, and I'm here now, you know. And suicide attempts because of what my dad had done to me, it really affected me. And she said, do you mind if I pray for you after this phone call? You know, she didn't pray on the phone, she prayed after the phone call. And then 20 minutes after the phone call, I heard a clear voice in my head saying, look in the mirror. Well, I was like, what? Okay, where's this voice coming from? So I stand up and look in the mirror, and for the first time in my life, I looked in the mirror to not see a boy looking back at me, but to see a young woman.
Wow. Oh, God.
And that's exactly what I said. I said, wow, for about an hour. I just kept looking in the mirror like, wow, what is this? Wow. I've never seen this before.
You've never seen that person?
Never seen that person before, ever.
I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful because, oh, wow. It's amazing. It's amazing. You must have felt euphoric.
Yeah.
Just seeing a woman finally
lifted.
That weight lifted.
It had been lifted. And really that's what you call it, dysphoria. You know, dysphoria is what I had all them years, really, since I was 4. All them years I had this dysphoria where I felt like a boy. I didn't want to get my shoulders out. I wanted to wear football shirts. I wanted to wear this, that and the other, and cut my hair short and bind my chest, and even wear things like packers and things like that, you know.
Well, I know obviously you're only 2 months in, but it is all spiritual. It is a complete spirit.
Yeah.
It's a spirit that is upon you, upon anyone who's not yet received the Holy Spirit, and it's just that is what you're dealing with, is that spirit, is what's, it's using your flesh as an outlet. That's what they do. And you know, hospitals and everything, doctors will have a name for all of this. No, let's call it what it is. It's spiritual.
Yeah.
Because when you were delivered that day, truly when the pastor prayed for you and those spirits were commanded out in the name of Jesus, the Holy Spirit and Jesus was able to do what he can do best, because now all of that, those spirits were gone and he could now dwell within, and that's when the light shines. But people don't understand that all these mental health issues, schizophrenia and depression, anxiety, multiple personality disorder, which I had, by the way, did you?
Borderline personality. Yeah.
So I used to literally pretend I had a different name. So I'd go on holiday, I had a different name. I called myself Danielle. I wasn't Katie, I was Danielle. Then I started pretending, so I'm originally from the Wirral. I used to pretend I was from Liverpool. Now in Liverpool they have a very thick accent. I would literally, this accent, full blown. But I had a whole life, a whole different pretend life, and it was like that is what I would follow, and that's what I'd tell people in school, different schools. I had full blown personality disorder, and I didn't realise. I just thought it was something weird. But looking back, my mind was split. It was so split that I was actually pretending to be. I'd go on holiday with my mum and dad, and they'd hear me in the pool talking. We went to America once, and I was pretending to be from another part of America. Anyone but me.
Yeah.
Anyone but me. I wanted to be. Do you know what I mean? And it was just constant wanting to escape who you actually are.
Yeah.
Isn't it? You know, and that everyone I've spoken to with the same past are the same. They've got this split personality disorder, and it's all the same textbook things, isn't it?
It all comes down to one thing, doesn't it?
It is. And for me personally, I don't know about you, I'd be interested to know this, but my abuser had a spirit of narcissism, and they're one of the most evil, I've come to learn. He had that very strong dominant spirit within him. Now every relationship that I've had has been with the same demon, different body.
Different bodies, yeah.
The same.
It's coming back round, isn't it?
It went from one to the other. So my first relationship had that, but not as bad. And then my next one, he was just, and he even had the same name as my abuser. And it was the same.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with demons. I seen in his eyes, and this is before I was saved and knew Jesus, and I would say, you're the devil. You're the devil. I can see the devil. And they are vessels. They're vessels.
Yeah.
And you know what broke everything for me is praying for them. And I don't know whether you've fallen into the learning how to pray for your abusers and pray, and that is the first step of peace. Is my first step to peace, because by the way, I tried everything. Drugs, alcohol, sex, relationships, podcasts, not knocking podcasts, but I thought that they would heal me. Listening to certain podcasts, you know, where it's like doctors, going to the doctors, psychologists, healing groups, Reiki, you name it. I went down, therapists, until Jesus Christ touched me and healed me. None of that was even touching the surface. None of it. And then I read the Bible and realised that you have to forgive everyone, especially those that abuse. Now, that was hard for me because I had this burning hatred for him. Why wouldn't we hate our abusers? They ruined our lives. Mine ruined everything about my life, my relationship with my parents. Everything, every aspect was lost to this person, the unforgiveness. And then I read about forgiveness, and when I forgave, the peace set in.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, actually, did you know I was saying about the 27th of November?
Yeah.
I actually found out, which I didn't only found out about 4 weeks ago, that my father actually passed away.
Wow.
And he passed away on the 26th of November, the day before I tried to kill myself.
So yeah, tell me about your dad then. You mentioned that the night that you truly were going to end everything, what happened? You found out. So, by the way, did you have any contact with your dad? At what point did you stop kind of having any contact with him?
Well, at 16, I refused to go at this point. I said, I'm not going anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going. So I stopped going at 16, and then I don't think I saw him until I was 22, maybe. I think 22, where he did a lie detector and passed it.
No.
Yes.
So he sexually abused you up until the age of 16?
Yeah.
And then how did the lie detector come into place? What happened?
I reached out to one of his family members, and she gave me his number, and I contacted him, and he said, I didn't do this to you, but I believe it happened to you.
Oh.
I don't know who it was. And, well, the other people that were in my life, was my granddad, who was not like that. He was actually one of my protectors. He was somebody that loved me, and, there wasn't anyone else, really.
So he had the audacity.
Yeah.
So was it an unspoken thing, completely unspoken? So everything was happening to you, but it was like you were angry and everything, but did you ever say to her, blurt out, well, you're doing this to me, or you're doing that to me? No. Was it just unspoken? Unspoken. Yeah. So
till I was 16.
Till you were 16, and then you said what to him?
I mean, I told my mum at 16, I said, I think Dad had done this at the time. It was, I think Dad had done this. It was going through my head. I was only starting to really understand sexuality at 16 and what things meant and stuff. And then I started to realise, that was wrong and that was wrong, and he made you feel like that, and this happened, just putting all these pieces together at 16. And I turned around to my mum and said, Mum, Dad has done this to me. And her response wasn't really what I needed at the time, or I needed a hug, and I needed her to say, right. I'm here, it's going to be okay, and give me a safe space.
Okay.
And that didn't happen.
What happened?
I got told at first, she took me to the police station. The day after I told her. So the day after I told someone, for the first time in my life what had happened, I got dragged to the police station.
To report
it. I wasn't ready to talk about it.
Okay. But that meant, though, in a way, that she did believe you.
Yeah, at this point, she did, yeah.
Okay. Do you feel like she believed you the minute you said it?
Yeah, I think her reaction was she believed me.
Okay.
And then after the interview with the police, it was like a setup, like cameras and a little living room, and it was videoed and evidence, and they asked me questions that I couldn't really answer at the time because I didn't really understand.
Right. Do you feel like they believed you?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it was quite obvious, but I was very withdrawn. I was a very underweight, very withdrawn person.
Do you not think, though, it's a typical textbook thing, is troubled teenager comes in accusing father, and there's a complete disconnect, isn't there, with the authorities?
Yeah.
Because number one, people aren't ready to know this, but most of the time, some of them police officers are paedophiles themselves.
Yeah.
Okay? Most of the judges, doesn't matter what job title you've got, but these men are doing what they're doing, and it's most of the ones that are high up. So when this gets brought to anyone's attention, it is, why would they take it seriously when it could ruffle their little feathers of, you know, do you believe?
Absolutely, because my father was a architectural electrical engineer, very high up in his job. He was very wealthy, and he knew people. Yeah.
Don't they all?
So whether or not things are like sort of deflected, ignored, you know, through the doctors and
well, the doctor one
and,
for me is a huge red flag. Imagine being a doctor, writing in brackets at 4 years of age, sexually abused by father, and nothing is done. That is...
And there was evidence. There was physical evidence.
Physical
there was water
evidence.
infection after water infection after... And she turned around to my mum and actually said, someone is sexually abusing her.
So how does that make you feel about your mum?
It's difficult. It has been a difficult road for me and my mum. It has, you know. I mean, shortly after I told her at 16, she threw me out. You know, I was homeless for 3 weeks, and then I went into care. I went to hostels and sort of roaming around Manchester for a long time, for a few years.
Those abandonment issues.
Yeah.
It's the last thing you needed at that time.
Absolutely, yeah.
The last thing. We can be so let down by the ones we love, can't we?
Yeah.
So let down, but this is what we hand over to Jesus in the end. You know, same with me. I hated my parents. Hated them because they let me down in my eyes, majorly. That my abuser was able to just carry on living with us, and you know, he was the golden child. He, you know, it was, I had to watch it all, and it was like, how can you do that to me? How do you not know what I'm going through? I've been through. How can this just be brushed over as? And like you, I would never say, well, this happened to me and they did that. It was just, you don't speak about it. It wasn't spoken about. But yet we're walking around looking like mental people, literally deranged psychopaths who are just, you know, the parents give them everything. What more can they do? Why are they like this? But yet no one even stops to think, well, it's textbook why they're like this, you know.
Yeah.
This is textbook. And I'm just so sad because it took, once I forgave my abuser and then forgave my parents, I was then completely able to have a new life with them, and I looked at everything from a different perspective. Then I was able to love them for who they were, put my past behind me. It meant nothing now, because when Jesus takes it away, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone. Like you, I also had memory loss, which I do believe that is a massive protection. I've got a massive memory loss from so much of my childhood, and if God was able to reveal it, why would I want that? It was dark, it was miserable, it was toxic. Who wants to remember that? No one. So I do think God completely protects people with that. Do you? Because even now, saved, I still can't tap back into that, and I don't want to. He's just shown me the parts that I need to use. But like I said, once I forgave my parents and everyone, you know, I was able to embark on a amazing, beautiful, wonderful relationship. And I'm just sad that I only got about 5 years with my mum because she passed away recently. But I'm just so thankful that she didn't go while we were at odds, because that would have caused me so much distress. We were able to talk about it. I got validation, because the thing is, for me, I don't know about you, but I just wanted them to say sorry. and admit
yeah.
it. But my parents would not throw it back in my face, but sometimes my mum would even say, well, I don't believe it happened. How do we know? And that you could have just killed me then. That was taking a knife and just stabbing you. There was no... That to someone who has gone through what they've gone through is the worst, I think. But then I do look at it from their point of view, and being a mother now, you know, you just can't imagine that your own child would be capable of such things, could you? I mean, I'm like a wife about a husband, and, you know, you just don't want to go there, do you? And I think a lot of people are still in their own trauma, still carrying their own weight of the world, and they can't see things for what it is, because I truly believe if you would have to admit that that's what you've brought into the world, then what does that say about you? But that's not true, because we're vessels, aren't we? But are you now on like a much better path with your mum? Do you harbour anything? Is everything good?
Yeah, everything's good, you know. Everything is good.
Good.
I've forgiven my father as well. I did forgive him about
Amen.
4 weeks ago.
Amen.
Yeah.
And that was, he'd already passed,
Yeah, but I'd only found out, like I say, about 4 weeks ago that he passed.
So did you forgive him before you knew he had passed, or after?
I forgave him before, actually, about a week before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I forgave him about a week before, and then I found out through Facebook. No one told me that he died. I found out through Facebook for a post that actually he died.